Welcome to the Drum Shuffle, a podcast offering insights, perspectives, and conversations for drummers. I'm your host, Jamie Eads. Hey, how's it going out there, everybody? Welcome to the Drum Shuffle. Jamie Eads joining you as always. This is episode 86. I hope you're having a wonderful week out there. It is certainly a sad week for all of us in the drumming community. Of course, we learned late on Friday of the passing of the great Neil Peart. Suffice it to say, anyone that has ever even touched a pair of drumsticks, whether they know it or not, were influenced and inspired by Neil's fantastic drumming. The world will certainly be a different place without Neil, and I think this is one of those delineators in the world of drumming, life with Neil and life after Neil. He was an immensely private person, and of course we tried to get Neil on the show, and he respectfully declined, and now it makes a little bit more sense as he was in the fight of his life. So rest in peace, Neil. You'll be hearing more from us here at the Drum Shuffle about his life and times in an upcoming episode. Have a fantastic interview for you today. I am going to be joined by one of the young up-and-coming drummers in the United States. Rod Elkins will be joining me from, of course, Tyler Childers and the Food Stamps. Rod is doing fantastic work out there, and we're going to learn a little bit about him and his career right after this message from our sponsor, Los Cabos Drumsticks. The best-kept secret for drummers is finally out. Los Cabos drumsticks may look like the sticks you grew up with, but these are not your father's drumsticks. Los Cabos Drumsticks is Canada's #1 drumstick brand, and they are coming to a retailer near you. With operations in over 28 countries worldwide, thousands of drummers have already discovered the Los Cabos difference. Using FSC certified wood from Canada and the U.S., Los Cabos make the finest quality drumsticks, percussion tools, and accessories on the market. The best news, Los Cabos Drumsticks offers you a ton of choice. They have 22 individual drumstick models and 14 percussion tools, many of which are available in 3 different wood types: maple, white hickory, and red hickory. Red hickory comes from the center or heart of the hickory tree and has been independently proven to be both stronger and more elastic than white hickory without adding a lot of weight. While most drumstick manufacturers have shunned red hickory, Los Cabos Drumsticks has embraced it, becoming the only established stick brand in the world to offer a full line of red hickory drumsticks. To learn more about Los Cabos Drumsticks, visit them online at loscabosdrumsticks.com. Follow them on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and don't forget to ask for Los Cabos Drumsticks at your favorite retailer. Dare to be different. Join the Red Hickory Revolution with Los Cabos Drumsticks. All right, guys and girls, as I mentioned in our intro, we're about to be joined by Rod Elkins. Special thanks go out to my friend Jen Tackett for making this introduction. Here in Kentucky and now nationally, a young man by the name of Tyler Childers is starting to get a lot of attention because of his great songwriting, his great songs. Tyler is doing some great work, and his touring drummer is a young man from over in Huntington, West Virginia. And I was very pleased to get him on the show and talk all about the cool stuff going on in his life. But please help me welcome to the Drum Shuffle for the first time, Rod Elkins. Hey, good evening, Rod. How's it going, brother?
Going great, man. How you doing?
I can't complain too much. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year, brother.
I appreciate it. So Rod, you guys just finished a big run over in Eastern Kentucky. You'll have to refresh my memory, but was it 4 nights in a row that you guys did, or how did that work?
It was 3.
Okay.
3. Two were consecutive, and then had a couple days off, and we all came home. It was pretty close to where we live. We all came home for a couple days, and then did New Year's proper on Tuesday.
I got you. Now, that arena over there in Pikeville, that's, I want to say that's probably a 8,000 seater, something like that.
I think it's around 7, yeah.
Okay. Well, so, I mean, that's a pretty big deal in Eastern Kentucky. And, you know, for those of my listeners that aren't familiar, you know, Pikeville is about as far east as you can get in Kentucky, and it's in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains. But they do have a nice arena over there, and you guys did, you know, 3 nights, right at New Year's, and, all of the media coverage of it was just incredible. I think it was an overwhelming success. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was a great time. They treated us really well, and, yeah, everything was really great, tip top.
That's fantastic, man. Well, so, let's rewind just a little bit. I want everybody to kind of hear about, you know, where you're from and how you got started into drumming. You're a West Virginia native, correct?
Yes, sir. Huntington, West Virginia.
Okay.
I'm just across the river from all you guys.
Yeah, it's not far at all. And my wife is actually originally from Ashland. So,
oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's literally your backyard is where my wife grew up. So,
absolutely.
It's a small world. Now, growing up in Huntington, you know, I'm in central Kentucky, but, you know, a lot of people would think, okay, Huntington, West Virginia, probably not a big music hub, but actually back in the day, there were some great clubs in Huntington. I used to play at the Monkey Bar all the time in the late 90s and early 2000s. You know,
yeah. There's a lot of kinds of, there's still, you know, a couple, we got the V Club still, and, we've cut our teeth there, and, Shamrocks over by the stadium used to be Marley's Dog House.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did a lot of picking over there.
For sure. Well, now you grew up in a musical family. Is that right? I mean, your dad's a musician.
Yes, sir. Yes, he is. He's a guitar player. He's been a guitar player my whole life. And I started playing drums with him when I was 12, and his country band, the Elkins Brothers Band.
Oh, that's awesome.
Played all over, and actually was just talking to Dad the other day, and my Uncle Dave. It was him, my Uncle Dave, my dad, and my dad's identical twin brother, Ronnie. They had a band, and it was guitar and singer and bass, and they all sang really great 3-part harmony. And I was talking to them the other day. My Uncle Ronnie's no longer with us, but I was talking to Dad and Uncle Dave, and they were talking about how they were the house band at the Rockdale Jamboree in Cannonsburg. And I was like, what's that? You know, because it's not around anymore. And they were telling me about it. And I guess they did about 6-8 months there. And they said Ricky Skaggs and Keith Whitley and Ralph Stanley and the Osborne brothers were coming in and playing. So he sat in with Tom T. Hall a few times and Tennessee Ernie Ford. And, you know, he exposed me to a lot of great music as a kid.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, that's just kind of a who's who of, you know, Eastern Kentucky music right there. I mean, all those guys.
Yeah, and like they didn't know at the time, what Keith Whitley and Ricky was going to mean to everybody today.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't think much of it. They just thought there was 2 kids that were really good. Yeah. It was about 1970 before they hitched up with Ralph Stanley and them. So. Yeah, he said Keith Whitley talk your ear off. Rick Scott would just sit there and play guitar, and he wouldn't say a word.
That doesn't surprise me a whole lot, to be honest with you. You know,
yeah.
That's fantastic. But I mean, we have such a rich musical tradition in Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, Western Virginia. The Appalachian music is, everybody always points to bluegrass, but there's tons of great country artists. There were a lot of good rock bands that came from this area. So it's a different scene, no doubt, but growing up in that way, I'm sure music is just in your blood, right?
Yeah, sir. People tell me that, and I'm starting to believe them a little bit. Yeah, it was. I was always around it, going to clubs with my dad before I could get into clubs, and watching them, just being mesmerized by the whole thing, and especially the drums and the way they sang, and just meeting people and getting to talk and hang and learning a lot before I even knew I was learning anything.
Yeah.
You know? So, and it was awesome, and I always took music classes in school at the time. So I was in the school band from 6th grade until, I went to college for music too, so till about 6 years ago.
Well, and you're out on the road, man. You're still taking musical lessons. You're just not paying for them anymore.
I'm learning a lot from everybody we run into and people that open for us or we open for them, and getting to hang out with people like Larry Keel or meeting up with Sturgill and saying hey to him. Yeah. And having Miles came and played a few dual drum tours with us, and learned a buttload from him.
Yeah, he's a monster, man.
He's great.
Like I was saying before we started the interview, I mean, I can remember Miles as, like a middle school age kid. I played with his older cousins in a band in the late 90s. And I can remember Miles hanging around as a little kid, and he was all about it then. You know what I mean? And just tearing it up. So I just think we have so much heritage, in this part of the country. The music runs deep. It may not be Iron Maiden or heavy metal or whatever, but we have a great musical heritage, no doubt about it.
Yes, we do. And there's still some good music to be had around here. With people like the local Honeys and the band Ona here in Huntington. And, I felt fortunate to come up when I did, and meeting people and cultivating a nice scene here, when people didn't think we had one. And it was just kind of after the heavy metal phase that Huntington went through there in the 90s, late 90s and stuff. And, people didn't know what to do, really. And we all just kind of banded together. It wasn't really a contest, which was what the good thing was. We were all just really good, quote unquote, bubs. We were all just good friends and like to see ourselves do well. We'd always go to each other's shows and stuff. So that was really great.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's the way a good scene should work. I mean, there should be friendly competition, no doubt about it, but.
Yeah, and that's essentially what it was. It's like, oh man, I want to kill it last night. We have to kill it.
Exactly. Yeah. You take somebody else's success and turn that into motivation for yourself. I've always said, you don't root against somebody because there is karma in the universe,
Yeah, absolutely. And it was all, seeing it like our friends get up and do the thing was more inspiring than it was, I don't know the word I'm looking for here, than it was just like letting you down, like, oh, I can't do that.
Right.
It was more just like, heck yeah, man, I want to go practice now. I want to be that good.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That's fantastic. So as a youngster, in West Virginia, I know you started playing at an early age, and you're quite a bit younger than me. So, I'm not going to give away anybody's age here, but, who were some of those first influences? Who were the guys that you were trying to emulate as a beginning drummer?
Oh, at the very beginning, I was just trying to keep good time and make my dad happy. Because he would always tell me, he was like, you need to kiss them drums, boy. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Dad? And he'd say, keep it simple, stupid.
That's right.
I was like, okay. You know? And I would just try to do that much as I could.
Yeah.
And then it got into the band and Levon Helm.
Oh,
I just wanted to be as much like Levon Helm as I could. Never quite got there. But
well, no offense, but you never will, because Levon, you know,
absolutely.
I've said this a billion times, that style can't be taught. I think you just have to be born in Turkey Scratch, Arkansas to do what he did, you know?
Absolutely. But he was the first, him and Steve Gadd, you know, were like the first two drummers I really wanted to be like. And, you know, still never scratched the surface on either of them, but maybe got more out of it than just playing and style than you know, I think, you know, than just in my hands and technique. It's more or less like an attitude, I guess. I kind of learned from them, you know, how to play with a song as opposed to a song, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, that I think that's a really hard lesson for a lot of drummers, is playing for the song. You know, you know, I struggle with it still to this day, and I've been playing 30 years. You know, I always listen back and go, I may have overdone it there a little. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, ego's the word I use, but I don't think everybody has an ego. But it's really like the drummer's ego. You feel like, I've been playing this groove for a while, maybe I should do something. Yeah. It's not always the case. You know?
Yeah. And that's a real hard lesson, you know, and I've just talked to so many great drummers, you know, over the years and through this show that say, you know, the most important notes in any song are the ones you didn't play. You know?
Yeah, buddy. I believe that.
Yeah. So, you know, sometimes less is more, for sure. Well, so I would imagine, you know, your peers as a young drummer, you know, your experience is a little different in that you weren't forming garage bands with your middle school buddies. You were actually out playing with your dad, which is kind of unique.
I was doing it all. I was doing the academic. I was playing with my dad, and I was trying to do something myself in a garage with my friends.
I gotcha.
Craig Berletic, the bass player and the food stamps, he was in that garage with me.
I gotcha. Okay.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was just going to say, though, I mean, as a young guy, you know, my influences were, you know, Alex Van Halen, Tommy Lee, you know what I'm saying? Lars Ulrich, everybody had the same kind of core drummers, you know, all my drummer friends. Did you feel like the odd guy out when you said, I really want to, you know, play like Levon Helm? I mean, did a lot of your friends go, who's that?
Well, the Levon came later. Levon came after high school.
I gotcha.
Before that, it was just a little, I never gravitated toward the Larses or anybody like that, or like Tommy Lee. I didn't really listen to rock music until my senior year of high school.
Oh, okay.
So I was always like, listening to Waylon and Merlin, and it was just like, didn't really know who those drummers were, but there was this feeling in this groove that, you know, I wanted to do that, whatever that is, and we're going to keep trying until maybe it sounds like that.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But it was a little just like, you know, I did feel a little odd man out-ish, and, you know, I tried to, like, you know, follow my friends a little bit with the music they were listening to, and be like, oh, yeah, you know, that's cool. But have you heard this Buck Owens record? And everybody being like, what's that? I was like, oh, Buck Owens, and it's the greatest.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, you know, here's a funny story. I was in Nashville. This has been, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. I was in Nashville and went into Robert's Western World one night, and this great band was playing. I can't remember, Monty Good maybe, and the Honky Tonk Heroes. I think that's what they were called. And, I was watching the drummer and I was like, God, that guy looks so familiar, so familiar. Well, they take a break, and I walked up and introduced myself, and he was like, my name's Willie Cantu. And I was like, oh my God, like Willie Cantu from the Buckaroos. And he was like, yeah, sure enough. So, I mean,
that happened to Craig last time we played the Grand Ole Opry. He went and met up with a friend at the Nashville Palace, and there's Willie Cantu playing drums at the Nashville Palace.
man.
And I opted to go to bed. I was like, well, we were there last night. I think I'm going to take it easy. And sure enough.
Yeah. Well,
the day you decide to go to bed is the day you miss it all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a super nice guy, and but I guess my point is, once it's in your blood, you're going to find a way to do it. You know what I mean? And Willie's got to be in his 70s, I would think, and he's still,
it has to be now.
Still out there doing it, and that's just a cool experience, to get to meet guys like that. So after you got out of high school, now correct me if I'm wrong, I've done a little bit of research, but you went to Marshall.
Uh-oh.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
so,
sir.
And you did jazz studies at Marshall, right?
Jazz studies.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I started out as just a percussion major and did that for a few years, and then took a break around '08 and came back and was kind of bored with that whole playing in orchestras and stuff. And it was fun and stuff still, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then realized, we have a jazz program and I could play drums every day in school, play drum set, and take on my other classes too. And I started doing that, and it was a first for them. They never had a person with an emphasis in drum set before. So we were kind of testing the waters and feeling it out as we were going along. Like maybe you should take this course and this course. This will help with this. And, so that's kind of what happened, and fell in love with jazz and, garnered a deep appreciation for it.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine that, that stuff helps. I'm not a huge jazz head. I love listening to it, don't get me wrong, but I can't play it to save my life. I mean, I just, I don't understand that whole comping with the left hand, and, it's just not something I'm comfortable with. But I would imagine that doing the jazz studies really helps with chart reading and all of those things that come along with jazz. I mean, I would assume that you're using some of that stuff to this day.
Yes, sir. Especially if I get called to play with somebody it's a quick turnaround, I can listen to the record, chart it out real quick, and have something to look at if there's no rehearsal or anything. And I can follow charts and read music, and so that's helpful. Played with Landell Eugene Murphy Jr. a couple times, and that was like, here's the book, shows at 8,
Good luck.
And it's like, cool. We'll have a set list during sound check, and I've done that a couple times. And the most valuable thing I learned at Marshall, other than just like being as prepared as possible with the time you got, is being thrown into so many situations that I normally wouldn't have been in, and being forced to play 3-4 nights a week, different music, and playing on other people's recitals, and doing this combo concert, and then we got to go do the big band concert like next week, and every night, and then having concert rehearsals every night, and learning how to manage your time was super invaluable to me.
Yeah.
And just getting hours and hours and hours of playing under your hand in, a few years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
probably more than if you just try to do it by yourself. I could do without that student debt right now, but that I learned a lot. I can't say I didn't learn anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, some guys are born to practice, and I mean that with all due respect. And what I mean by that is there are guys that would rather get in their practice space and shed all day than anything else. I am not wired that way. I have to schedule time to practice, right? And I will find everything else in the world to get done before I go sit down and shed for an hour or whatever. But when you're in that structured environment where, like you said, you have to be ready for, this ensemble or, the jazz concert or whatever it is you're doing, you're forced to get that time in on the kit, which is good for some guys. It would be great for me.
Yeah, I had a professor say this is the most you're ever going to be able to practice in your life, so you should go practice. And I was like, I didn't believe him until here recently. But I'm actually, you're trying to use this time off. Now, we have a couple of weeks off since New Year's and getting down to about 6-7 days left of it. And had my kit set up since we've been home and, kind of going back through some of the jazz stuff because I haven't played jazz in a few years.
Yeah.
And in any real capacity. So just, the independence of your limbs that comes with jazz I think it's such a nice foundation for anything else you want to do.
I agree.
That, that it's great. And so just trying to do that and just trying to keep up on brushes with the Osborne Brothers Ruby is what I've really been trying to do. That's all cooked.
Yeah,
But I'm the same way when it comes to rehearsing. Some weeks, some days, I'm all about it. Just if I want to do. I have the attention span of about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And then I have to get up and do something else.
I hear you.
And so my 2 hours a day gets split into 30 minutes, do something else, maybe come back for an hour, do something else, get about 20 more minutes. I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't like to play much more than like 2 hours a day. I don't get 2 hours a day to play all the time, so I'm really trying, even if I'm going to break it up like that, to really focus in on keeping my limbs fresh, getting some independence back. I'm not saying we play the same songs every night, but, for a little bit, we've been playing a lot of the same songs. So your limbs kind of get used to doing the same thing. And then when you try to do something different, your body doesn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm trying to just kind of like shock my body a little bit.
Yeah, I hear you. We've had the conversation on this show with other drummers, there's a lot of guys that bag on guys that play in cover bands, but the set list is different every night when you're in a cover band. Whereas if, depending, and I know Tyler's not really this way, but if you're in, a certain, country group someplace, you're going to play the same 25 songs every night for a year, and there will be no deviation from that. And, like you said, that's when bad habits form. You get lazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, we don't necessarily play the same songs every night. There's, definitely songs that we have to play every night.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not saying that in a bad way or anything. But yeah, Tyler does really well at keeping us fresh and putting songs like, hey, let's learn this song, let's do this, or let's bring back this old song we used to do, before, all this. And so that's really nice, and then you realize some of the bad habits you had in a song that you hadn't played in a while. And it's nice just from a fresh perspective. But yeah, like I said, just opening up my limbs and exercising maybe, my hi-hat foot again.
Yeah.
For a little while is what I've, been into. And you were talking about chatter on the snare drum. That's what I was doing before you called.
Yeah.
There's this book I picked up when we were in Washington, and it's like Mel Bay's like Jazz Drummer Cookbook or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just going through chatter exercises. It was different rhythms in your left hand, keeping the swing pattern on the right.
Yeah, man, that stuff is, I mean, it's amazing. And, you know, could I fake my way through a jazz gig? I could definitely fake my way through one. Would any jazz drummer in the audience go, man, I could do that 10 times better? Every single one of them would. You know what I'm saying? So it's, I just, you know, I had Peter Erskine on the show, you know, and arguably one of the greatest jazz drummers of all time. And he was like, you know, the older you get, the more into jazz you're going to become. He was like, because we all go back to our roots, you know, and I think there's some truth to that, no doubt about it. But so, Rod, talk to me a little bit about, you know, I know that you had a band that was very successful down in Huntington, you know, post-college years, called Deadbeats and Barkers. And you guys did, you know, a lot of gigging. I think you even mentioned it, Shamrocks. You guys were there like Sunday nights. You did a residency there.
Yeah, we did like 65 or 70, somewhere in there. One of those numbers, consecutive.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot of gigging, you know, and I know you picked up a lot during that time, but is that the gig that kind of directly tied you up or got you introduced to Tyler and his music?
It was with Deadbeats. It was not at Shamrock, though. It was during college, by the way. So we were like doing these jazz things and then playing on Sundays and then going out and, you know, getting over to Lexington at the Green Lantern or the Smiling Skull in Athens, Ohio. We were doing that while we were in college, too.
Okay.
And it was, there was a 1-year anniversary party. There was a bar called Shoots on 4th Avenue. And our buddy who ran it and bartended, Jack Browning, booked Tyler to open. And we knew who Tyler was. We'd seen him play and we're just amazed by him, you know. And he opened up for us. We were just like, dude, you need a band, man. He's like, I don't know. I was like, man, you're incredible. Like, just think about it. and Jack was like, man, it'd be really funny if y'all did a country cover band and called yourself the Food Stamps. So we kind of toyed around with it for a little bit. I mean, all of us would go see Tyler play. He was in small batch, you know, playing with them, and he'd roll through town, and he would do open mics. We'd make sure to go see him. You know, that's back when he was still doing the Adele cover.
Yeah.
And wearing bow ties and stuff. And we just loved it, man. It was like, this is what we want to do. I mean, at least for me, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I want to play to those songs. You know, because they were off the charts. And I love country music that much. And you just hear it. You know, it's like, that's what I want to play to. So it was pretty much that. And then I booked us without asking for this Buckle Up Music Festival in Cincinnati, Ohio. And it was like the first one, like Country Music Festival. The email said 50,000 people, so I'm telling all the boys, guys, we're going to play in front of 50,000 people. Like, yeah, obviously that was not the case.
Yeah.
When we got there, we were on another stage somewhere else, and he was like, well, we can't play covers at this. We had done, like, someone's birthday party and played some covers. You know, I think it's the first time we did Trudy and did some Hank Williams and other stuff like that. And so he was, well, let's work up these songs then. And did Feathered Indians, all such stuff. And that's when we got introduced to Sturgill. You know, Metamodern had just came out.
Yeah.
And he was playing the main stage right after us. So we were about half a mile to a mile away on another stage. So as soon as we got done, we're hightailing it over there to see Sturgill, and that's the first time we saw him. And then Marty Stewart played after that on the stage next to us, so it was back toward the other direction. And that set alone changed my life. It was 2014. It was raining, and they were all dressed to the nines. They come out, in these purple suits, and he doesn't say a word and just says, "Stop the world and let me off." And they just go into "Stop the World and Let Me Off" by Waylon and start playing all these great country songs, covers, Merle, Buck Owens, and then he starts playing his songs, Hillbilly Rock, Tempted, and then they do a little gospel thing. And funny thing was we had ran out of beer behind our stage. And Tyler was like, "You think Murray Stu's got some beer back there?"
Oh, God, here we go.
And I was like, "I don't know, man, maybe." So he hops up behind their stage. There was like a dock, like a shipping dock behind their stage, where like a truck could pull in.
Right.
And so he hops up there, and I was like, "Well, you can't go alone." So they're there, and we just pour ourselves. It was like a little igloo cooler with 2 taps on it. I got the picture somewhere. Me and him getting a beer out of there, and we just kind of fill our cups and just kind of turn around, and there's Marty and all the superlatives, and we just started talking. And I mean, I decided then that's what I'm doing with the rest of my life.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
That's in some form or another.
Man,
that's what's happening. And we got our picture and talked to him, and he was great. Played with him once since.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, that was kind of it, and just kind of started doing little gigs here and there. And here we are now, post 7,000-seater arena in Pikeville, Kentucky.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, and that's how these things happen. And Tyler is, and just for the record, I have never met Tyler. I've seen him play, but I've never met him. I've been in the same room with him, but I didn't want to bother him during lunch or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, absolutely.
He is. I put him in the same category as I would a Jason Isbell, a Chris Stapleton, a Sturgill Simpson. He is an artist. He is not just some guy that writes songs and sings them. There's something more about it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what that, unspoken thing is, but he is a true artist. And I think his songs are just so honest, and they come from a real place. He's not just, going through his rhyming dictionary trying to, come up with something that sounds good. He writes from experience, and it's really cool. And it's almost unfair that a cat that young can be that good that fast.
Oh, it sucks. I hate him.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the nicest way. No, it's definitely, he's one of the most prolific writers, in my opinion, of our generation. And, boy, hasn't come about it easy, and I mean that, like, he's worked his butt off, and I've been lucky with some of the other boys in the band. I've been there, either hanging out with him or being in the band with him to see how hard he works, and he cares about it, and he cares about every song he puts out, and he's one of my best friends,
That's awesome. That's awesome, and I mean, I just think. I think some people who maybe aren't from these parts, and I jokingly, kind of said to myself, this will be kind of like a hillbilly summit between me and Rod. We got the Kentucky and the West Virginia, it's going to be great. But
yeah, man.
But, for some people that aren't from here, calling your band the Food Stamps is not only funny, but it's also really serious at the same time. You know what I mean? I think it sends that dual message of Tyler Childers and the Food Stamps, right? It is a reflection on where we're all from, Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, Southeastern Ohio, some of the highest poverty levels in the country, in our neck of the woods, so to speak. And I think Tyler keeps it real. I mean, he talks about those things, not like he's ashamed of it, but that's just a fact of life. And I think it resonates with people. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. But I know I definitely never thought too much about it. I always just thought it was funny.
Yeah, we're right.
And you know, we've definitely caught some guff on that a few times. You know, people thinking we were maybe exploiting the poor or something like that. And it's like, that is not the case.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we just thought it was funny.
Well, sure.
You know, but no, I mean, everything you said is, you definitely nailed it there, I believe. And like I said, I don't really have an opinion on it one way or the other. Well, to be honest.
Case in point, you know, and the media made something of this here locally. I don't know how far out it got. So for those of you listening, you know, in California or Canada or England or wherever you may be, you may not be aware of this, but after, you know, you guys did the shows in the arena in Pikeville, you know, somebody snapped a picture of Tyler helping the custodial staff clean the arena. Okay. And I'm sure you've seen something about that, but that's the kind of guy he is. He was like, okay, it's New Year's. These people are having to stay and clean up after my band played a show. I'm going to pitch in and help them sweep the floors. I don't think you would find that with many other artists. I really don't.
Most definitely. I think he thought, you know, I made the mess, you know.
Yeah.
I probably should help clean up a little bit. And personally, I didn't know he was out there for the longest time, or maybe I would have jumped in there and helped him. But we were getting our gear together and putting it, you know, in another van to take home and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that is the guy he is, man. He thinks about that kind of thing. He definitely cares and thinks about other people too, you know, and not just himself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that, you know, is sorely missing from our industry at times. Not saying everybody doesn't worry about that, but I just thought it was really cool to see a picture of him pushing a broom on the arena floor right after he got done playing. You know, I mean, that's pretty. Yeah,
it definitely was great. I was definitely humbled by it when I found out he was out there, you know, and was like, well, good for him, man, you know, and you know, we all probably should have went out there and helped him, but
well, yeah.
You know, we were getting other things together.
Yeah, you didn't just leave your gear to your team of roadies, right? I mean,
oh yeah, we got a team of roadies. Where are they at?
Exactly. Somebody asked me.
Where are they at?
Somebody asked me one time. They were like, "Who's your drum tech?" And I was like, "You're looking at him."
Exactly. Yeah. You're talking to Rod Elkins, drum tech, and
that's right,
and gear maintenance man and mover. And you're looking at him.
Oh, isn't it so true? You know, I guess people just assume, you know, oh, he's playing an arena, he's got a full crew. It doesn't work that way anymore.
It doesn't work that way. You got to pay that said crew, and you know, and you definitely don't want to bring anybody out for peanuts. So maybe one day.
Yeah.
And you know, we definitely we've been fortunate in the sense that we've been able to play bigger places and in theaters and now arenas. We've done a couple, and we'll get ready to do some with Sturgill. That a lot of these places come with in-house crew, stage crew,
right,
that do carry our stuff in and out. But as far as like setting up and tearing down, that's all on us.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I like doing that. I mean, time me, you know, 8 to 12 minutes. I got it up and I'm banging around and tuning a little bit. I don't play much. You know, I got a Ludwig Classic Maple, 4-piece, 2012-14, 2 cymbals, hi-hat. That's it.
Yeah. You're not rolling in with the Neil Peart setup or anything like that.
No, I left my double bass in my other pants most days.
It's all good. Well, you know, you mentioned Ludwig, and you know, Uli Salazar and Josh Touchton are both really good friends of the show and really good friends to me. You know, I think that's one of the coolest things when you end up in a gig where you start playing more and more. You do get support from companies like Ludwig or you know, whomever, ProMark, Vic Firth. You know, I don't know who all you endorse, but It just makes, it's one less thing you have to worry about. And one of the things that I'm constantly asked about is, how do I get an endorsement? How do I get an endorsement? And, we've talked about it on this show before, but I want to get your perspective on this. They didn't show up at your house with free drums, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Right. And you didn't get anything for free, right?
No, not at all.
So the deal is, we all play our preferred gear, and you're a Ludwig guy. So I'm sure you approached them and said, hey, I'm doing all this cool stuff. I'd love to work with you. Is that kind of how that went?
Yeah, well, I've been chasing him for a minute. I haven't talked to Yuli personally. I sent him a message too, so if he's listening, that was me in your DMs there, probably about 3 months ago. But no, I had a mutual friend with a guy at Ludwig who was like, man, you need to be with Ludwig.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I love Ludwig drums. I just bought a new one, because I was playing on some Tays for years.
Okay.
It was a sweet kit. It was free. It was actually a buddy of mine's, and it was just in his garage, just kind of getting sun damaged. And I was like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And I was in between kits. I had a 70s Ludwig at the time, and it was like a 2213 16 gold sparkle classic, late 70s. And it had granitone in it. You ever heard about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, man. I had a bunch of Ludwig standards that had that granitone interior stuff.
Yeah, maybe it was a standard then. Maybe I misspoke. Maybe it was a standard I had. Bought it off the internet, and I just didn't like that granitone. It just kind of choked off the sound for me. And so I sold it, and I was just kind of sitting with the cash, like, oh, I'm going to get something else. I was going to get another Ludwig. Wound up with those Tays, really liked how they sounded. I'm a 2012-14 kind of guy.
Okay.
I figured that out in my years. Big drums don't do much for me. But, I played that for years and then bought this Ludwig that I have now back in June, and then was talking to a mutual friend who knew a guy. He played in a band with a guy that worked at Ludwig, and he was like, I'll hit him up for you. And so that's basically all. Well, he was like, he just said email him, and you guys can talk. And so that's all we did. We just talked about it. And
that's cool.
He sent me an offer, and I said yes.
There you go. Well,
that's about it.
Yeah, and I think what's lost on people is, it's not about getting, new gear every month or whatever. And I've had this conversation, I don't know how many times. It's when you go to Europe, you don't pay $3,000 to ship your drums overseas. You show up and you backline a kit from Ludwig, right? I mean, they have that network to provide you what you need on those European gigs and things like that. That's where it pays dividends. Yeah.
Like my friend Ryan at Ludwig is who I talked to. Jurovic, I think is how you say his last name. He took care of me when we did Seth Meyers this last time and CBS Morning. So that was the same kid, but he was the man behind the scenes that was like, this guy needs a Ludwig,
Yep.
And our production manager that we have, our sound guy, who kind of production manages too, they were talking and they fixed me up. And that's the way I look at an endorsement, man. I look at it as a player, it is, you are endorsing this product because you believe in that product and it makes you sound the best you can sound, the best of your ability. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's, you do have to believe in it, I feel like, to endorse it. It's not about free stuff. It's not about, I mean, discounts are great when you're playing all the time, but how many times are you going to be buying drums?
That's right.
Daily, and it's like, man, it's really a support system. I don't necessarily hit them up for things all the time. It's really like, okay, I'm took care of already.
Yeah.
You're there if something happens.
That's exactly right. And, when you're in Omaha, Nebraska, getting ready to do a show and you've got, something broke, you don't have to go chase down a Guitar Center 2 hours away. You can call somebody and say, hey, I need you to overnight me a cymbal stand or something like that. That's.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really, for me too, it's like, I've always loved Ludwig, and honestly, it's been a dream come true to be on their website and be among their roster of so many great players that play Ludwig, because going back to my dad playing and then practicing in someone's living room, and this guy had a jelly bean kit. I took that from another drummer buddy of mine. It's just a mixed match kit.
Yeah.
It's just different collars, so he called it a jelly bean kit. I really liked how it sounded, so he had a jelly bean kit, and it was Ludwig. It was all Ludwig drums. It was all different, like 60s and early 70s drums put together, and I just thought that was just the coolest sounding kit.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I've played on hundreds of kits, different companies and everything, and it's always been Ludwig, man. That's the kit that excites me. It's the kit that inspires me. It's the kit that I think sounds the best.
Yeah. Well, I agree. And I endorse a different company. I endorse a small custom builder called Bowie Custom Drum out of Bowie, Maryland.
Yes, I've heard of them.
Yeah. And I've been with Kevin and Bowie for, gosh, man, I don't know, 6-7 years now. And I've bought one kit in that time. That's just all I need. But, and it's a very open and honest relationship. And, I buy Ludwig snare drums all the time. They come out with a new snare drum and I'm like, man, it's a Ludwig. I'm going to buy it, and it has nothing to do with, well, I don't like this guy anymore, or I don't want to endorse his drums. You buy the gear that makes you play your best and sound your best, just like you said, and, Kevin, is a small shop. Every time I needed a snare drum, if I said, hey man, I need you to send me another snare drum, he would be like, dude, I don't have any time. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
So,
yeah. And I thought about smaller companies that I really like, definitely Sugar Percussion in California is up there. For me, they're just great people. And that's what I'm really about. And like Ryan at Ludwig, we've only ever corresponded through emails, but it's like, maybe he doesn't feel this way, but I do.
Yeah.
I think there's a friendship there, and I'm just that kind of guy, though. Like, I'm gonna trust you. I'm just gonna want to be buds, even if it is business. Because, man, we gotta be happy in this life. There's no sense in being negative or I'm the artist, take care of me. Like, no, man, we play drums, okay?
That's
like,
right.
We're artists, yes, but like we can be civil and we can be cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I feel like they haven't had to do much for me yet, and hopefully they don't have to do too much for me, like to fix any problems or anything. But it's like they definitely have taken care of me so much already, just from the little that I've asked of them. That it's perfect.
That's fantastic, man. Well, I'm glad to hear it. That's just super cool. And, we're big fans of Ludwig here at the Drum Shuffle, and, I own a whole bunch of their stuff, and I'll have to tell you about my 2012-14 kit when we get done with the interview. I'll tell you all about it.
There you go. Yeah, please. And Phosphorus Cymbals. I am a proud endorsee of Phosphorus Cymbals. They were my first. I got them a couple of years ago when we played with Margot Price at the Ryman. It was like it was like a couple nights before that show, our first ramen show, and cold email, just sent it all. Like, hey, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
What do you think? And they were like, awesome. Let's
cool.
do it. That's essentially it.
Yeah.
We barely talk to each other, but anytime I just want a symbol, I just email them and say, hey, I would like this. They send me an invoice. They make it. I pay for it. They ship it to me from Turkey. That's our relationship.
Well, I mean, that's the best. That's the best kind of relationship, you know. I mean, it's you know, I kind of have that relationship with DoorDash. I'm like, Taco Bell, I need a burrito, and they bring it to me, and I pay them for it. You know, I mean, what more could you ask for, right?
Exactly. I mean, obviously, I would like to, talk to them a little bit, maybe a little more, but it's all good. We got a nice thing going.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
but they've been great too. It's always been real fast. They make it for me, as opposed to just just grabbing one off the shelf and sending it. So it's always a fresh thing. Instrument I can break in. That's essentially what I'm pumped about right now with these drums. I got them, so I ordered them the end of June, didn't get them till August, and then I had to wait until we got back from Europe, which was like mid-September.
Right.
So they just sat at the local drum store in Charleston, West Virginia, where I bought them through, and I sat there for a couple of weeks, and then, got them, and I wanted a vintage Ludwig because they sound the best, and I was worried about touring with it and it breaking down.
Yeah.
Finding parts, because moving instruments is taxing.
Yes, it is.
When you do it all the time. And so I was like, well, let's get a new one, and, it'll hold up a little better, but I was really pumped about just breaking in an instrument from the beginning.
Well, and at the end of the day, all of the major drum manufacturers, if you take care of your stuff, it'll last you a lifetime. I mean, it really will. I think a lot of us have, gearitis or gear acquisition syndrome, GAS for short, and everybody wants the next nicest thing. But I think this is the fact of the matter that any drummer, if they really sit down and think about it, it doesn't matter if you're playing on a $200 kit, a $2,000 kit, or a $20,000 kit. It's going to sound like you. I mean, that's, that's my personal belief, but,
absolutely.
So Rod, I want to be respectful of your time, and we've almost come to the end here, but, a couple of things that I want to get in before we wrap up. I know you guys are doing this tour starting in February. You guys are going out on the road with Sturgill Simpson and his band. What else do you have on the calendar for 2020? Tell us if you give lessons and things like that,
Oh man, mostly all just the Sturgill run is about as far as I'm looking right now. That's I don't look too far ahead, just far enough ahead to keep myself, in the game, and but that's going to eat up a lot of time until about mid-May, end of May, and just trying to get through that, keeping my body healthy and stuff like that to get through it. And I've been toying with Skype lessons, maybe trying to start doing that. I don't know yet.
Okay,
I'll throw something out, maybe. Trying to get like pages together.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I've never really done anything like that before. So it's like, we're all tinkering with a little bit of that. Because we get a lot of downtime sometimes in between sound check and, getting to a place and doing some other sort of stuff. So, yeah, just stuff like that right now.
I got you. That's cool. Well, do me this. Give us your Instagram, Facebook, give us all your handles. So if people have questions or want to link up with you, they can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mostly, Instagram. I use that a lot. It's, Rod Elkins Drums, RODELKINS is my name. And drums. And then Facebook's just Rod Elkins right now. Toying with us, setting up a page and kind of directing people over there here sometime this year. And that's about it. I don't use any other platforms.
Okay.
Oh, and there's everybody give a like to And the Food Stamps Instagram page. That's a good one.
Okay.
For all your comedic relief and content.
All right. Fantastic. Well, before we wrap up, it's our tradition here on the Drum Shuffle. We ask all of our guests for a good piece of advice. And, I'm going to go out on a limb and just say that, you're one of the up and coming drummers right now. You're doing incredible work. I really dig what you're doing. Your playing is fantastic with Tyler. I think you have a long career ahead of you, Rod, but share with us a good piece of advice that all of us other drummers can take out there in our day-to-day life.
Well, first off, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot when, people dig your cookie recipe.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
But I would have to say it's kind of a threefold, simple, just relax. Stay relaxed, stay focused, stay the course, and stay out of your own head.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. Well, that part about staying out of your own head, I think, is probably 98% of being a professional musician. I really do believe that. It's so easy to overanalyze every note that you play or don't play. And like you said, relax. Just do your thing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be there if they didn't like you, right?
Exactly.
So.
And it's a constant struggle, It's really easy to get in your head. It's really easy to overthink everything. But hopefully, whatever gig anybody's got, hopefully you're around good enough people that help keep you grounded and talk you out of your own head when you can't get out of it yourself. Yeah. And I'm very fortunate to have people around me that, when I'm talking to the demons, they pull me back.
Yeah, that's important to have that support system, because this, what you're doing is not an easy way of life, for sure. It just isn't. And we all get that, but, keep up the good work, man. You're doing killer work out there. Can't wait to see you guys when you guys come through town, with Sturgill. I'm sure I'll be there, and rooting you on. Rod, thank you so much for taking time to come on the Drum Shuffle and talk with us for an hour. You're welcome here anytime. Keep us posted on what you got going on, and we'll do this again real soon.
Cool. Thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Thanks, man.
All right. See ya. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap up episode 86 of the Drum Shuffle. Thank you so much for tuning in. We simply cannot do this show without you doing so each and every week. As always, I'm going to ask you to hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you use. If you like the show, give us a thumbs up, a star rating, a review. It really helps us in the search engines for people to find the Drum Shuffle that maybe haven't heard about the show yet. So if you could take a little bit of time out of your schedule to do that for us, we would certainly appreciate it. We do answer every single email that we receive. The Drum Shuffle Podcast at gmail.com is where you can send us an email. Our web address is thedrumshuffle.com. And of course, you can find more information about me over at jamieeads.com. While you're there, look at those social media links for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We do try to keep up our social media output. You can follow us in those places as well, and we would appreciate that from you too. Now, we have some great guests coming up. We are still working to get Dina Torriello scheduled to come back on the show. Of course, Dina is now working the Little Shop of Horrors show on Broadway in New York. We're trying to get our times together. We have extended an invitation to Corey Coverstone of the awesome rock band Dirty Honey to come on the show, so we're trying to coordinate with him. We've got some great episodes coming up, so you're not going to want to miss those. So do hit that subscribe button. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We simply cannot do it without you. So until next time, may your head stay strong and your sticks never break. Cheers, everybody.